everybody. It is Saturday night, April 4th, 2026. It is time for your NXT Stand and Deliver post-show here on bodyslam.net. I see Callie, you're here. Welcome in, everybody, for this NXT Stand and Deliver post-show. Just making my last tweet. And yeah, Cory was supposed to be here. About to talk about Cory in a second. We were going to start at 11 o'clock because usually Cory and I like to watch AAA before we get into our post show. But sadly, Cory is not feeling great. So I am here doing the post show by myself tonight. So again, sorry for everyone who's just joining in to talk to Cory, but hopefully you guys stick around because this will be a really fun post show here tonight, here talking about the biggest NXT PLE of the year, their version of their WrestleMania NXT Stand and Deliver. So Kylie and Dell, if you're still want to chill out with me, I would really obviously appreciate that. Cory is on tons of shows now here on BodySlam.net, and he'll be probably on most of these post shows with me moving forward, especially the next couple weeks when we have Dynasty and we have WrestleMania Night 1 and 2. So let me just make my last promotion tweet. This is a pretty big show tonight to talk about. 7 matches, 5 title matches on the show. We have a new NXT Women's and a new NXT Men's World Champion here on the show. There was the fact that a lot of controversy, I guess you would say, that NXT is not involved in WrestleMania weekend for the first time in a really long time. Because again, like last year, NXT usually does their shows in the afternoon before WrestleMania on Saturday. But again, afternoon West Coast time is like 9 a.m. They started to Stand and Deliver at 9 a.m. Last year. And that's, there was also the Hall of Fame at midnight after SmackDown last year. So it was a long sleepless nights for a lot of people who have to work all of these shows. Yeah, people do complain a lot, as always do. I think it's actually nice that NXT, I think I'm very mixed on it, which is I wish NXT was a part of WrestleMania weekend, but honestly, from a business perspective, and honestly from a consuming perspective, of people going to the actual show, no one wants to be at a show at 9 a.m. On a Saturday morning, especially a lot of these people go to SmackDown, the Hall of Fame. They go to all of the shows in a row. And for those people, that's it's not fair to the people who go to the shows. It's not fair for the people who work the shows. So I think once they get WrestleMania back in the East Coast or the Midwest or something like that, where the time difference is much easier to do an NXT show in the afternoon, I think that's the time to bring back Stand and Deliver. And I agree with you, Kicken. I agree with you. I think it was the right idea to separate it because, again, they are promoting the show as this is NXT's WrestleMania. This is the biggest night of the year for NXT. But it's 2 weeks before WrestleMania. And Kylie's saying, for me, it should have been a week before, not 2, but it ain't bad. But also not mad. Yeah, I think it's good that it has its own date. Again, I don't think, Dynasty is Sunday next week, so they wouldn't be going up against each other technically next weekend. I think 2 weeks is good. He separates themselves. I think there's a lot of potential call-ups here following this show based on the winners and the losers. So guys, if you guys are tuning in, welcome in everyone to BodySlam.net. Please, if you're watching anywhere where you can hit that like button, please do hit that like button. Would really mean a lot, guys, to me and the channel. Helps helps the algorithm out so more people can check out our videos. If you are watching us and you're not subscribed to Body Slam's YouTube channel, please go over there and subscribe to Body Slam on YouTube. We have live shows for the most part every single day of the week. If it's post shows for Raw, SmackDown, NXT, TNA, NXT, all of those things. Plus, I am the host of all of the major post shows, if it's NXT, WWE, or AEW. And I'll be back next weekend to do the Dynasty post show. And I'll be back in 2 weeks reuniting with Rami to do the Night 1 and Night 2 post shows for WrestleMania. I'm sure Cory's going to hop on those post shows, if not one, all of those post shows. So again, thanks for joining me here. Also, please subscribe to Body Slam's Patreon channel, guys. It is exclusive pro wrestling news. Our man Cory Hayes, we have a lot of great scoopers who work for bodyslam.net, who have been putting in amazing work here in 2026. Broke the news, obviously, yesterday that it was Ari Emanuel that maybe got involved to get the Pat McAfee thing going last night on SmackDown. They break tons of breaking news, contract news, behind the scenes, rundowns, all of those things. The best way to support everyone who works for Body Slam is to subscribe to Body Slam's Patreon. Would really mean a lot. And also, please follow us across all of our social media platforms as well. So let's get started, guys. I know, again, I was supposed to be, sorry about that, Kaylee. Sorry, it says, I think to me, it sounds like Kylie, but again, I'm sorry about that. There's Cory joining me on Twitch. Thanks, Cory. Again, he was not feeling well, so that's why it's about me, but doing the post show. But thanks, Cory, for letting me do this on my own, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you on these post shows over the next 2 weeks. Let's get into NXT Stand and Deliver in St. Louis. Again, appreciate it a lot, Cory. The show started with an actual pre-show match, which is very rare for WWE to do a pre-show match, especially when it's the whole show, by the way. Also, before we even get into the show, sorry, this show was available for free on YouTube, both the pre-show and the main show. Again, NXT has been on Peacock for several years after, obviously, the WWE Network. But after Vengeance Day, the deal ran up, so they moved this their biggest show of the year to YouTube. I really appreciate it. I don't want to mess up anyone's name. I know it means a lot to a lot of people, so the last thing I want to do is start messing up people's names. But yeah, the show is exclusively on YouTube for free. It was on Netflix for international viewers, but here in the States, it was free on YouTube. So that was very easy to watch the show tonight. There weren't those like Peacock ads. I think a lot of people suffer through over the last couple years. So very easy to watch show tonight. Even though I get ads on my YouTube, I didn't get any ads during the actual show. So that was awesome. But let's get into NXT Stand and Deliver. As I said, the pre-show begun with a 10-person mixed tag match. We had Birthright, who ended up losing in this opening match to the team of Ren Sinclair, EK, Prosper, who was obviously recently Eli Knight, Hank and Tank, and Shiloh Hill. This is a harmless pre-show match. Birthright, who just formed, since forming after, especially when Charlie Dempsey got involved, have not been picking up any wins. They lost on Tuesday in the number one contendership for the tag titles to Los Americanos. And then Birthright loses again tonight to a group of people who are not a team. So it's very frustrating because I'm not the biggest fan of this faction, but basically as a united front, they're 0-2 since completely forming after Finlay and Regal put them together. So they're 0-2. Again, I totally got them not beating, Los Americanos on Tuesday. You want a babyface team to go up against Vanity Project tonight. But in my predictions, I definitely thought they were going to win this match tonight. But my favorite part of this match was the Ren Sinclair, Charlie Dempsey bit where Ren was just so mad. Again, former members of No Quarter Catch crew. Now it's Ren QCC with Ren and Kendall Gray. But I thought they had a very just an easy match, fun match. EK Prosper is someone to watch. He is extremely explosive and quick. Obviously trained by Booker T. Was in that tag team for a hot second with Ilya LaFleur, but obviously his injury didn't help. I think EK Prosper is going to be probably the front runner, honestly, to win the Speed title, to take over after Ilya. To take place. No kills, no damage on YouTube saying, is Cory Hayes a part of Body Slam? Yes, Cory Hayes is definitely a part of Body Slam. He's sick tonight, so that's why it's just me tonight. It's supposed to be me and Cory. But But yeah, it's really weird. I agree. Pointless forming a faction just to have them lose their first 2 important matches. I completely agree. Ariana Grace, again, is the TNA Knockouts champion. She had a pretty big retention on Thursday night on Impact against Xia Brookside. But yes, on NXT TV, she does not win a lot, and that's someone who is the #1 women's champion on the other show on TNA. So really frustrating how Birthright is being booked. I think it seems like Lexis King is the leader, but yeah, they lose in the tag title contendership match on Tuesday. They lose to a group of people who are not together at all. And it's honestly one of my biggest pet peeves in wrestling is when main event match was good. We're going to talk about the main event match a little later on. But my biggest pet peeve is when a faction loses to just a group of people. I always think it's an advantage that an actual team should actually be winning these matches. But again, it's the pre-show. I'm not going to, to harp on this too much. We saw Shiloh Hill, by the way, also later on the show. And again, I'll bring your comment back up later. If you guys have comments, keep them coming. It makes this show a lot more fun, especially when I'm doing it just myself, having to talk to you guys. It's a lot of fun. So if you guys want to keep commenting, keep putting in your questions or comments. I'll do the best of my abilities, obviously, answer your questions, but also we can talk about your comments. I'm cool disagreeing with you guys, agreeing with you guys on the show. That's the fun part about pro wrestling. It is subjective, but let's do it in a really nice way. So let's get to the main NXT show tonight. Shawn Michaels came out to start the show, and I was like, this is interesting. Shawn Michaels comes out, but it's just to introduce the special guest of the night, which was the supposed host of the show, I think they kept saying, was Sexy Red, the rapper who I've never really enjoyed her inclusion with NXT. She came out, said she's excited for the action, and Shawn Michaels said, suck it, and the show got underway with, I thought, the first match on this show, which was the triple threat for the women's world title, was easily the best match on the show. Kendall Gray, Lola Vice, and JC Jane. On Tuesday, if you guys don't watch the week-to-week product, at the theater at Madison Square Garden, Lola Vice faced Kendall Gray. Winner was going to face JC Jane tonight, but the finish of the match was Kendall Gray hit the suplex. She went for the pin, and right when it was the count was 2 on Lola Vice, Lola still had her in a submission, so Kendall tapped like a 1/10 of a second before the 3 count. So there's all this controversy. So then the day after the show, they announced on social media that this would be a 3-way. This definitely felt like the last big match for JC Jane in NXT. She got a really cool entrance where when she's coming out in the back, she's like walking through the back. They're showing all of like the best highlights of JC Jane's NXT career. And it really shows you she's been in NXT for a very long time. She was definitely not someone who anyone really thought of as a top performer on the show. Obviously with Fatal Attraction, I guess, what was the faction with Mandy Rose and Gigi Dolan? No one thought of her as a real main event level talent for NXT, but really she has been the glue and the #1 women's star for NXT for over a year now. And that is a full credit to her. She's a phenomenal performer. She was always one of my favorite, more underrated performers in the WWE umbrella. So really cool to see her. I was like, she's definitely not going to win. I thought, obviously, it was really split between would they go with Lola Vice or Kendall Gray, because you've had Lola Vice, who has been in NXT for much longer than Kendall Gray. She's been used on the main roster at the Royal Rumble. She has always, has been used on AAA. So Lola Vice is a talent that clearly WWE likes to use in a lot of different shows and ways. She's currently the mixed tag champs in AAA. So with Mr. Iguana. But Kendall Gray, obviously, everyone is jumping on the Kendall Gray bandwagon. When I watched her in Evolve for the first time, there's only been like a couple people who really, took me off guard and like impressed with in Evolve. Jackson Drake was one. Callie Armstrong, Kendall Gray, I think were the big three people when Evolve started. That was like, those three people feel like they don't have to be here for that long. Jackson Drake and Kendall Gray got the call up. I don't think Callie Armstrong is going to be in it and Evolve much longer either. But Kendall Gray had won the Iron Survivor, which was a huge win for someone who has not been on NXT pay-per-view before. Plus, she's still defending the Evolve title every week. And then she obviously has to relinquish the Evolve Championship a couple weeks ago. She did lose a singles title match to JC a couple months ago. But I think a lot of people were thinking maybe they could just pull the trigger now on Kendall Gray. A lot of people said that about Javon Evans for a very long time. That didn't obviously end up turning into a title reign for her. But Kendall Gray is a special performer, 24 years old. She is going to be a top women's performer, top just performer in general for WWE for years to come. And you say, Kendall is so freaking good. I thought she was going to win, but I like Lola too. That's my opinion. I think what it shows you tonight is they really rewarded, hard work. Lola Vice is someone who came from a mixed martial arts background, and you could tell she was very green when she first started in NXT. She was not someone who, it takes people different times to get to where they want to be. But Lola Vice is one of the most improved performers in NXT. Yes, she's very solid and can do those NXT underground matches in the wheelhouse, but as a performer, she continues to improve. She's been put in big spot after big spot. She had that singles match of JC and that feud of JC Jane last year, where a lot of people thought she was going to beat JC Jane. This match was excellent. There was an outstanding moonsault from the top rope to out of the ring from Kendall Gray, which was just jaw-dropping to watch in this match. The ending was incredible, how quick everyone was getting to their moves. Ren Sinclair canceled out Fatal Influence. So it really just, and JC was like, where did everyone go? And I liked that Lola pinned JC. It was a triple threat. The whole story was JC's the champion, can't get pinned, in this scenario, doesn't have to be pinned and lose the title. I like that. It was no doubt the champion got pinned. JC did good business putting someone over in this scenario. And Lola Vice got a massive win with that back fist on JC. Kendall did hit the gray zone on JC, and I honestly bought a ticket that was the match because I'm a massive Kendall Gray fan. Obviously, in the ring, she's exceptional. I think her work on the mic is extremely underrated because everyone just talks about her work in the ring. I think she's the whole package as a performer. She hits the gray zone, which is one of my new favorite finishers in pro wrestling. But Lola broke it up, and I was like, okay. But Lola also hit a back fist earlier in the match, and that wasn't the finish. So I really didn't know who they were going to pull the trigger on, Lola or Kendall. They chose Lola. Kendall got knocked out by JC's finish, and then she went right into that back fist of Lola's, and Lola gets the win. So she is the new NXT Women's Champion. I don't think JC Jane now has anything else left to do in NXT unless maybe they want to do a storyline where she maybe puts over Fallon or Laney and she gets kicked out of the group in some way. They could do that. Because I just don't think JC needs to be on NXT anymore. I think she could be a Raw or SmackDown after Mania call-up. She has been in NXT for years now. She's done it all, tag team wrestler, top singles performer for the company. I think it's time for her to be called up, and I think she's done it all. And I'm very excited to see what JC Jane can do on the main roster. I don't think it's going to take a long time for Kendall Gray to earn some hardware in NXT. She is must-watch TV. I think she's easily the best in-ring performer that NXT has on the women's side at the moment. She continues to stand out here. It was smart they didn't have her take the pin in this match, so they could always do a proper, straight-up Lola Vice versus Kendall Gray match. Again, I don't need every title run in pro wrestling to be super long. So if Lola's reign's 2 months, cool. If it's 5 months, we'll see how long it goes. But I think Kendall Gray is someone I wouldn't wait to pull the trigger on. It doesn't have to be in the present, the NXT Championship. If they want it to be the NXT North American Championship, cool as well. I think it's time for her to win some hardware, though. She is so insanely talented. It's really rare to see someone who obviously, yes, she's in Evolve and comes to the PC, but to see someone debut on NXT and rise to the top like she has and delivered on NXT's biggest shows just shows you how important and valuable Kendall Gray is to NXT. But again, happy for Lola Vice. She's a completely improved performer. So very happy to see her. I know a lot of people in this chat were happy. And I know Poncho says Kendall Gray is so good, wish she won. In my heart, I did want Kendall Gray to win. But I think they want to tell the story of Lola Vice. They told very similar stories, I think, with the main event and the opener, where the person who has been in NXT for years, working hard, really bred from the PC and from WWE, not from independents, not from outside, won titles, and Lola Vice and Tony D'Angelo. That then takes us to the NXT Tag Team title match. Vanity Project, Brad Baylor and Ricky Smoke and Brad Baylor defeating Los Americanos. Jackson Drake and El Grande Americano were ringside. There were actually 2 near falls of Los Americanos. I actually thought they were going to win the titles because going in, I thought this was the easiest match to predict on the show because obviously Los Americanos are main roster talent. They're not going to win the NXT titles here. And Vanity Project, another group that since winning the tag titles keep losing matches. Obviously Jackson Drake lost the Evolve title, but they've lost like 2 or 3 trios matches in the last month. So it's good to see them get back on the board. The 2 close falls, when they did like the double splashes, the Los Americanos, I thought they were going to win right there. I did buy a ticket when we really saw who the people underneath the mask were, basically when we got to see Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne hit their moveset in that match. Pete Dunne's Americano hit the bitter end, and I was like, oh my God, is that really it too? And Vanity Project kicked out. They were moving around I forget what you call it, but the thing that they put in the mask of the Americano so they can, headbutt their opponents with it to win. They were like passing that around each other throughout the entire match. Jackson Drake took a hilarious bump where El Grande Americano headbutted him and he like completely 360'd in the air. It was a really good spot. But Jackson Drake helped give Vanity Project the win. As I said, since winning the tag titles, they've been just taking L after L. So it's very good that they get the win. Again, NXT's tag team division, I think it seems like OTM are going to be the next challengers for Vanity Project. They got the big win on Tuesday over Dark State in the trios match. And based on what they're doing with Dark State on this show, I don't think they're continuing on and they're going to do a straight up Dark State versus OTM tag match. I think that's what it is. And I think they're going to move on to the main event. So I think OTM could be the people who probably will defeat Vanity Project. There are another group that gets better and better the more they're in the ring. NXT's tag team division, and I stand by this, since Fraxium lost the tag title to Stand and Deliver last year, has just not been that deep. Dark State's had a couple reigns. Tank and Tank obviously had a reign in there. Vanity Project most recently. So they did this tag tournament. It led to a non-NXT team getting this spot as Stand and Deliver. I do want to see them develop a lot more interesting tag teams. Again, I was excited to see Ilya LaFleur and EK. That didn't work out, obviously, due to injury. But Vanity Project, another group of young guys, knew they were different when they were in Evolve, especially Jackson Drake, who I think should be a person challenging for titles in NXT soon. He's such an excellent performer. But Brad Baylor and Ricky Smokes are an excellent tag team as well. Again, young guys, clearly good in the ring, have that charisma to them. Sometimes their shtick backstage like kind of annoys when they do like the hundos and stuff like that, but clearly good talent and very excited to see how they progress in NXT. They're also later in the backstage segment, but we will get to that. Next, we had a backstage segment with Tatum Paxley, Shiloh Hill, and Sexy Red, where Tatum and Shiloh celebrating with Tatum the fact that Shiloh got a match win and how excited he is when Tatum's going to beat Blake. And then like Sexy Red says, after you win tonight, Tatum, you and Shiloh can come to like the after party. I was like, what the hell is going on? And then Ricky Saints walks in. He's like, after I win, I'm like the real VIP. I'll be a 2-time NXT champion. You should be inviting me to the after party. And that was the second segment with Sexy Red on the show. We then moved on to Sol Ruca versus Zarya. And I want to say this first. The issue with this match has nothing to do with the two performers. Sol Ruca and Zarya put on a really good match. Clearly, you can tell they have been waiting to go at each other. This has been a feud which has been confounding because Zarya turned heel, in quotations, like she broke up the friendship. But that promo off they had 2 weeks ago, the whole crowd, and I think many people online, agreed with Zarya. She came off way more as a babyface in that promo than Sol. And then, so they didn't do any new stuff with them at the MSG show. So Zarya comes out, does her entrance. Sol completely attacks right away when she does her entrance, and the match just gets going instantly. We get 3 snow snatchers in this match. Sol hits one where on the outside of the ring, they have like a ramp, a stage leading to the ring. She hits it on the stage. Cool spot. They come in the ring. Sol hits another one. And I was getting angry. I was like, Sol's really going to beat Zarya after this feud starting. Zarya kicked out of the Soul Snatcher, and they made a massive deal that Zarya kicked out of the Soul Snatcher. I was like, wow, Sol's definitely not winning this match now. Zarya hits that amazing spear where Sol does that top rope flip into a clothesline. Instead of her clotheslining Zarya speared Sol. And then Zarya hit the F5. I was like, all right, that was it. Zarya hits it, F5, 1-2, and a kick out from Sol. That then leads to this really amazing stare off where Sol's getting up and they're both, on their knees, and they're kind of both getting emotional. Like finally, Sol's talking some sense maybe into Zarya, but then Zarya snaps out of it, starts beating her up, and then Sol hits an out of nowhere Soul Snatcher, and Sol Ruca gets the win. And I believe this is a really bad booking decision because Zarya doesn't really ever get any major wins on television, NXT or when she pops on TNA. Sol Ruca is the prized possession. Her losing to Zarya doesn't affect Sol Ruca at all. Everyone knows she's one of the top performers in NXT. Everyone knows how much the main roster obviously likes her, using her as Saturday Night's Main Event and at the Royal Rumble. She's clearly going to be someone who won't be in NXT for more. If she's at Stand and Deliver next year, I would be very surprised. Zarya is the one who instigated the feud. She turned on Sol. She feels beaten down by the friendship. She's always been in Sol's shadow. It made obvious sense to have Zarya go over on Sol Ruca because what is Sol Ruca beating Zarya accomplish? Zarya takes another loss. So what are we going to do on Tuesday? Zarya beats up Sol again, and we do another match to give Zarya the win. Like, I thought this was easy. Zarya gets the win, decisive fashion, and maybe she can move on to the world title. Because I did assume we were going to have a babyface world champion, and we do. So let's have Zarya get a win, move on to the world title, and maybe fight Lola. And I agree. I love Sol. Zarya should have won this one. I 100% agree. It's nothing against Sol Ruca, the person or the performer. I love Sol Ruca. I think she's an excellent performer, but she does not need to win this match. And it absolutely infuriated me when I was watching it because when Zarya, especially, you're going to waste someone kicking out of the Soul Snatcher to then just lose. Like, they made a whole deal of this is the first time anyone's kicked out of this, or this is such a big deal that Zaria's kicked out of two soul snatchers. As I said, Soul hit one on the outside, brought her back in the ring, hit another one. So she took 2 soul snatchers and kicked out, and then still lost the match. So I think you missed the moment of this is the first time someone's kicked out of the move and they can't even win the match. Plus, how does this benefit Zaria? If she comes out on Tuesday and attacks Soul or does a promo against Soul Ruka, she's going to come off as a complainer and not believable because she's not winning matches. And she did this turn to be seen as a real deal in kayfabe, in storyline, and she can't get a win. Zaria is another excellent performer, came into NXT with Stephanie Vaquer, with Julia, were top performers. Obviously Zaria wasn't in Japan like Julia and Stephanie were, but she was also in Australia. She was a major star when she got signed to NXT. Her and Soul were an amazing tag team. This felt like the time finally Zaria's getting a real shot as a solo performer. But this was the most infuriating thing for me on the show because it was a really good match. The two of them killed it, but the finish and the booking makes no logical sense. And you could say that a lot about NXT on a week-to-week, like watching the show on Tuesdays, but I was watching, I was like, who does this help? Soul wins a lot. What does Soul need? Why does Soul need to beat Zaria? No idea. I know that was a long tangent rant, but man, it really did infuriate me because I think Zaria, again, needed the win. So we then moved on to the NXT Men's North American Championship match. Miles Bourne and Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano won that gauntlet match, even though he did nothing the whole match and then just fell on Shiloh Hill at the very end of the match. But the whole story here was Johnny was going to bring back Johnny Takeover, Johnny Wrestling. He finally feels motivated. The crowd was entirely for him. Miles Bourne is a new babyface for them, and he's very beloved. As the announcers said, he is very beloved by the NXT universe. But they were all in on Johnny. Obviously, he is one of the, if not the top superstar ever for NXT. Stand and Deliver was a great show from start to finish. I think it was a really good. I think it was a very strong show from an in-ring perspective. There were a couple of booking things that were not for me, but hey, I'm really happy you enjoyed Stand and Deliver. Miles Bourne and Johnny Gargano, I thought, had a solid match. Johnny obviously is such an excellent wrestler, and because of the way he's been booked on the main roster, I still think people forget prime NXT Johnny Gargano. He was main eventing all of the shows. He truly was Johnny Takeover. He had match of the years every single year from that 2016 to 2019 time. And the first call up to the main roster didn't go well, got released. The second time when he got brought back, didn't really go well for him. Hasn't been going well. Obviously, Ciampa is now in AEW. He's been doing a storyline where he's sleeping at work, and Candice is trying to make sure to get him motivated again. So I don't know where this is going now because Johnny shouldn't be in NXT anymore. But Miles obviously is going to win this match. There's no way Johnny was going to win. Miles just beat Ethan Page, who had the longest NXT North American Championship reign. Gargano did have him in the Gargano escape for a very long time, but Miles got to the ropes. There was a spot where Miles went for a roll-up, then Johnny kicked out by throwing Miles into Candice, and Candice punched him. Johnny had a roll-up. That was a close fall. That was the only time I was like, are they really going to give Johnny Gargano the North American title? They did not. Miles hit 2 born-agains, one in midair, and then one, did he put him back up and do it again? So Miles Bourne is the new NXT North American champion. He's another guy who I think is getting better, but isn't at peak form, I think, as an in-ring wrestler yet. I'm excited to see where Miles Bourne is a year from now. But again, this is a good test for him. He's now the North American champion. He did well against Johnny Gargano in this match. Johnny obviously is an outstanding performer who I do want to see get booked better. If he's going to stay in WWE, and also Candice should be being booked better. She's such an awesome in-ring performer, and she's never used to wrestle ever. She's just used to be Johnny's manager. I really hope Candice gets used more from an in-ring perspective. The aftermath, or the part post-match is setting up Miles Bourne's next challenger, which is going to be Dion Lennox. He attacked Miles after the match, hit him with the chair, hit him with the finish, and yeah, so we're going to do Dion Lennox, Miles Bourne, looks like, for the NXT North American Championship will be the next feud. Dion has had multiple shots at the NXT World title, but now we'll get a shot at the NXT North American title, I'm assuming, after this beatdown after the Miles Bourne match. What are you guys' thoughts? Are you excited for Dion Lennox versus Miles Bourne? Like, do you think Dion Lennox has a shot to maybe beat Miles Bourne based on that Dark State promo, which I'll get to in a little bit? After this match, there was a backstage interview. Sarah Schreiber was interviewing Sol Ruca. Izzy Dame interrupted both. As let's see what Kicking It saying, causing some more discourse in Dark State. I think that's more of the story. I agree. I don't think it seems like, again, Saquon and Dion are not on the same page. And Dark State has been a miss. Has been a miss for a faction for me. They keep saying when Dark State's around, no one's safe, but I've never believed it from the moment they started until now. Wasn't a huge fan. I think Saquon for me has the highest ceiling out of the guys in Dark State. I think he's awesome, great promo, underrated in the ring is Saquon. Like, he's a guy I'm definitely excited to watch. Nothing really excites about Dion. I think Dion's solid. I think he's solid. Him and Saquon are the two standouts to me in that group. But yeah, I don't think it's going to lead to Dion beating Miles Bourne. I do think friction's going to happen with Dark State. Yeah, they had a great presence at first, and then they debuted, and they didn't seem like legit threats ever in their run. So maybe this promo could set up the fact that Dark State becomes more a threat, but I haven't seen it. I have to see it to believe it. And Shawn Michaels booking might not have me believing that will happen. So as I said, Sol Ruca, Izzy Dame, they both want the women's title. I don't know why Izzy Dame is in this picture. She literally just lost twice in Rhoda Tatum Paxley. So how is she now in the NXT women's title picture? But hey, so we're doing Sol Ruca versus Izzy Dame on Tuesday. Zaria's probably going to attack Sol Ruca, and we're not going to be done with Sol Ruca and Zaria because they had to have Sol Ruca win this match tonight because we have to keep this feud probably going. I don't think Sol Ruca is going to be in the world title picture. I think they're going to run back Zaria again, maybe 2 more times, do like a best of 3. Then we have the NXT Women's North American Championship match. Not going to lie, Dark State doesn't excite me. Has never excited me either. As I said, Saquon is the most interesting performer for me in that group. I think Dion has grown a lot since joining Dark State. He's been solid, I think. But yeah, it's not been a group because they're not believable as the ultimate threats in the company. They just do not. So we had Tatum Paxley defeating Blake Monroe. Again, Blake Monroe took the NXT Women's North American title away from Tatum. Not actually, but the physical belt. And that was kind of the big, I guess the story was that. There were 2 really good near falls in this match. Tatum hit her back of the head to the bottom turnbuckle. Like, the bottom turnbuckle was removed and Tatum's head hit it, and then Blake hit like the Dirty Deeds like finish, and I thought that was it. I was like, oh my God, Blake's gonna win the title back. That didn't happen. Kicking saying a couple of those near falls scared me. There was a near fall before where she used to call it the Mayday in AEW. Forget what she calls it now, but she hit the Mayday on Tatum. Tatum also kicked out of both those. I was like, wow, like really surprised. Because again, Blake Monroe's NXT North American title reign is kind of only remembered for the botched title change of Thea Hale. And they didn't really have Blake do much after that. She's now back in the title picture. I love Tatum Paxley. She's another one of those people who has drastically improved since she started in that breakout tournament on NXT. She puts on really good matches at all of these PLEs. Her and Izzy, couple really excellent matches, especially that steel cage match on TV. And this one with Blake was also really good. But as I said, Blake had a couple near falls. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. And bought me a ticket, but didn't work out. You're saying Tatum is the one. Tatum really is the one. I'm shocked they never went back to anything with Tatum and Lyra. I know Lyra's full main roster, but she kept going back and forth for a little bit. And they never really continued that. But yeah, Tatum retains the title. She's a Tyler Breeze story, just needed the right character to break through. I think Tyler Breeze was the right character. They never strapped him up on NXT, and then honestly didn't work out on the main roster. But yeah, I agree. She was someone who quirky, just for the quirk's sake, I think was what a lot of people thought at the beginning, was she was just the weird character on NXT. But in ring, no one really took her seriously, and she is an excellent professional wrestler. And Tatum, I love her finish as well. Her character work is really strong, of course. She has some, honestly, the coolest video packages on NXT. Yeah, she got the win. I was pretty happy about that. The question is, what do you do with Blake Monroe, right? She's already had her NXT title, a North American title reign. She beat Jordan Grace in a steel cage match. Is it time for Blake Monroe to be in the NXT world title picture? Because I don't think she's getting called up with JC Jane. I really thought after tonight it would probably be JC Jane and Sol Ruca who are getting called up. But again, Sol Ruca is not getting called up seemingly because she beat Zarya. So is Blake Monroe ready for the main roster? She's more than ready, of course. But I think she will probably get an NXT women's title run before she gets called up. After the match, and I'm going to bring up your comment in just a second, there was a segment with Dark State, which we already talked about, where they were seemingly not on the same page. And then Blake Monroe and the Vanity Project. The Vanity Project had been continually trying to flirt with Blake Monroe, has never really worked out for them. And then tonight, Jackson, was like, I'm really sorry you lost. Is there anything we can do to help? And Blake says, actually, there is something you can do. Bring a hairbrush. And I was like, what? But I don't know if they're like going to put these people together. KGK saying, seems like Blake versus Tatum will happen again. What happened at Vanity Project? What do you guys think is happening with Vanity Project and Blake Monroe? Like, what is she going to do? Do you guys think, because obviously Blake Monroe is not getting called up, as you say. That's the only thing she has left to do other than getting called up, which I agree with. I think she's going to get an NXT title run. But Vanity Project with Blake Monroe, do you think this is interesting, good, bad? What do you think that segment is going to lead to? You think it's going to lead to Blake and Tatum again? Which I don't know how you do that, because Blake lost clean tonight. There were no shenanigans. Clean win for her. You're saying Vanity probably helps Blake of Shiloh and Tatum being used on and off pairing. I do think they want to do, that's probably what they will do. Jackson Drake and Blake Monroe versus Shiloh Hill and Tatum Paxley. And maybe Blake pins Tatum in that mixed tag match, and that's how we get another title match. Yeah, that's me fantasy booking. But that's me fantasy booking, me taking your idea and running with it, KGK. But I agree. I think they'll probably do like a mixed tag match on Tuesday or the following week, and Blake's gonna get a win, and she'll be like, I beat the North American champion. I should get a title match. That's what I think they'll do. I don't need to see Blake Monroe in a relationship with Jackson Drake on TV, but So that was that. Let me think if there were any other, let me make sure I'm not mistaken. There were any other backstage. There was not. So let's move on, everyone, to the main event, Fatal 4-Way, NXT Men's World Championship. Tony D'Angelo, Joe Hendry, Ethan Page, and Ricky Saints. The majority of this match was about Ricky Saints and Ethan Page. They have been seemingly best friends on screen, but They both want to be 2-time NXT champions, so you knew things were not going to go well for them tonight. The first half of the match, they were working perfectly together, even pitting people at the same time to make sure they both won the match, which I thought was hilarious. As the match went on, then they turned on each other, which I thought was a hilarious part where Ethan Page hit a move on Ricky, and Ethan Page says, "You really thought we were going to team up?" And then Ricky Sainz speared him. He was like, "Look at me, I'm smarter than you." There was a crazy spot where they were fighting each other on the outside, and Joe Hendry just leaped into them. I thought that was a great spot. And then they were setting up to really end the day for Tony D'Angelo, where Ricky hit the Tornado DDT on the outside. Ethan hit the Twisted Grin on the outside, and they were about to put Tony D through the table. That's when the Joe Hendry spot happened. And then when they got up, Ethan was going to do the Twisted Grin through the announce table from the stairs to Ricky. And that's when Tony D'Angelo double speared Ricky and Ethan through the announce table. He went in the ring. He hit the spear. He hit Forget About It. And Tony D'Angelo is the brand new NXT champion. Going into this match, I definitely thought Paige and Saints were going to cancel each other out and not win this match. That happened. I was definitely in between. Would they finally pull the trigger on Tony D'Angelo? And the story with him was, and he continues to say this in story, these three guys, Hendry, Saints, and Paige, are all outsiders. They came to NXT from other places. Obviously, Hendry coming from TNA, Paige from TNA and AEW, and obviously Ricky from AEW. But they were outsiders. They were not born and bred in NXT. And Tony says, "I'm the true guy who bleeds for NXT. I'm the only guy who's not an outsider in this match." But again, Tony D'Angelo has been put in this spot a lot of times in his NXT career, never gets the job done. They finally pulled the trigger on Tony D'Angelo. Again, seems like people like him a lot. I think Tony D'Angelo is fine. This new on-screen, his promos now are much better for me than his promos when he was the mafia guy. His in-ring is still fine. He hit 10 spears. It felt like I saw 10 spears in this match. It literally is the most overused move in pro wrestling. I can't stand when it's used 5 times a match now, it feels like, and it was used in this match a lot. Again, the spear spot through the announce tables was great, but I thought Tony hit 4 other spears in this match. He's not totally for me. This will be a big opportunity because NXT's men's division obviously began to thin out at the beginning of the year when Trick Williams, Obafemi, Javon Evans got called up. Everyone knew opportunity was here for someone else, right? When Oba relinquished. Hendry won the title. You knew Paige and Saints weren't going to win back the title. But they gave Tony the win over Joe Hendry. The question is also, it feels like JC Jane as well. What else now does Ethan Page have to do in NXT? I think Ethan Page, Ricky Saints, main roster ready. I know the main roster loves Joe Hendry already. Those are 3 guys who I think a year from now aren't going to be in NXT, which means who are going to be seen as main event level male talent. I think they have countless amounts of women to use. Again, women made up half the show tonight. And there were women like Kalani Jordan and Jada Parker who weren't even, and Fallon wasn't wrestling, who weren't even on the show tonight. They have countless women can fill out all of the roles, right? Men's division doesn't feel like that. The tag division doesn't feel that deep, and the mid-card and the main event scene doesn't feel that deep. So someone's going to step up. I think Jackson Drake's a guy. I think EK Prosper could be a person. I think they're going to put Shiloh Hill in these particular situations as well. It's going to be interesting. Let's get to some of your comments. He has a higher ceiling now that you dropped the gimmick. I agree. When I was watching him with the Mafia gimmick, I was like, he's not going to do this on the main roster and be a guy on the main roster with this gimmick. I think it's benefited everyone involved that gimmick stopped. Stacks, I think is doing much better work since leaving that group as well. Luca Crucifino, we'll see how he doesn't evolve with his new gimmick. And I think Tony has been a much more interesting character post not being a mafia leader anymore. I still don't think he's the most amazing pro wrestler, but his promos have been significantly better since dropping the gimmick. I don't know what's worse, super kicks, spears, or destroyers. For me, it's spears. Uso super kicks, that pisses me off. Like, Young Bucks are the only ones who can get away with doing like 10 to 15 super kicks a match. Other than that, I don't need to see that a lot per match. I totally get I have more of a problem with pile drivers being used sparingly than destroyers. For some reason, I'm cool seeing destroyers in a lot of matches. Like, when I see pile drivers used for like just a 2, sometimes I'm like, I wish pile drivers were more protected to be finishers than that. So I'm still gonna say spears. I feel like I watch so many matches now, and spears are used so much. And this main event had a billion spears, and it can be very, very overwhelming seeing that many spears in a match like this. So, Tony D'Angelo is the new NXT Men's World Champion. Lola Vice is the new NXT Women's World Champion. New age, I think, for NXT. A lot of the people who are champions or in these main event pictures are moving up, I think, in the near future, which means, again, opportunity is aplenty for NXT. So what are you guys' thoughts on NXT Stand and Deliver? If you're watching this on the replay, leave it down in the comments. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, anywhere you can hit the like button, Twitter, please hit the heart or the like button. Really helps our algorithm out so more people can check out our videos. Please subscribe to Body Slam's YouTube channel. Please subscribe to Body Slam's Patreon channel so you can get exclusive pro wrestling news every single night. This is the time of year, by the way. We're going to have WrestleMania more scoops. We're going to have more Dynasty scoops, all these scoops. So please subscribe to the channel as well. I'm really happy. Great show. Really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good show. I think NXT TV product isn't the greatest product to watch on every Tuesday. It's very rare when you say an NXT PLE is bad. Their in-ring talent is very good, and it's always puts together. I thought this was better than Vengeance Day. Still questionable booking decisions on this show, but I thought it was a very enjoyable show as well. I want to thank everyone. I know a lot of you guys probably came just to watch and ask questions to Cory, but a lot of you luckily stayed around to listen to old me talk for nearly an hour about pro wrestling, which is a dream. I want to do this, obviously, and the fact that this many people want to talk to me and watch me on here truly means a lot. So for all of you guys who probably were just here to listen to Cory and I talk and stayed when it was just me, you guys mean a lot to me. Thanks for making this chat so awesome tonight. I had so much fun doing this myself. Can't wait for Cory to be feeling better and to join me on these post shows. I'll be back next Sunday here on YouTube and these post shows doing the AEW Dynasty review. And the following weekend, me and Rami will be doing the post shows for both nights of WrestleMania. So very exciting next couple of weekends. Also, please follow me, Body Slam on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. On TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, I do highs and lows for Raw, SmackDown, NXT, SmackDown, Dynamite, Collision. I do highs and lows for all of those shows basically every single day of the week. So if you like me talking now for an hour, you can catch my 1-minute videos every single day of the week on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok for Body Slam. So please follow us there. Weekly shows are bad at the moment. Pay-per-views never disappoint. That is the statement that I think sums up NXT. Not a great product on a TV perspective, like the week-to-week on CW, but boy, are these pay-per-views usually pretty good. It was good tonight. Cory, thank you so much for saying good job. And thank you. A lot of you guys stayed with me. You did really good. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Appreciate my people here interacting with Max. Your people were amazing to me tonight, all night long. Truly means a lot. Kicking it, saying good show, dude. truly means a lot as well that you guys all appreciated the show. So thanks so much for joining me here for another Body Slam post show. See you guys in the very near future.